We want children to think about what they are thinking about. We don't want them just to be passive readers, but we want them to be active cognitive readers, right?
Right.
When they're
Reading
about
and understanding. Reading to understand and not just to get through it.
exactly.
Yeah. So without any further ado, I'm just going to bring Dr. Nate onto the show. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for working it all out for us to meet tonight. It happens, technology, right?
Oh my goodness, you gotta love technology, I'll tell you. Well, how are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited about tonight. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yes, and I'm excited to have you. Like I said, I've heard a lot of great things about you. Kimberly said you've got to have Dr. Nay on the show. So we had to make it happen. So can you tell everybody who's watching who is Dr. Nay?
Well, okay, Dr. Nay is a transformation in action. I started off as a little girl in South Jamaica, Queens, New York. And I became a teacher because I wanted to make a difference. So I was able to actually go back to my previous elementary school and teach, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And then I decided to get my master's as a reading specialist because I wanted to impact the teachers, because as a literacy specialist, I was able to go in, train teachers, work with teachers in their classrooms to better help their students.
Yeah.
And later on, I decided to go into administration, educational leadership, because I wanted to have an impact on policy decisions, to have impacts on districts, communities. But after I received my doctorate, it's so interesting. When I applied for jobs, I ended up as a college professor about 30 years ago. And it's interesting how God guides you through different paths. And now when I think about it, I'm like, wow, look how many children I have impacted by training teachers all of these years, right? So my specialty is literacy, teaching reading in the classroom, but also culturally responsive pedagogy. That's my baby, where I teach teachers, master level teachers, how to prepare for and to teach children who look like us.
Yes.
So that is my baby. That is my interest because it's all about, how do we empower those who are underserved? But then about 5 years or so ago, poetry started coming to me. I was always a writer. I would write, research articles, conference proposals, book chapters, the academic type of things. But then poetry started coming. I embraced it. And then I said, I was trusted with this poetry to use it as a way to empower others. I was given it for a purpose. So that's why I published my books. I may be jumping ahead a little bit. And
we're just going to get to the book, so we're doing okay.
Okay. So yes, so I decided to publish my books so that they can get out there to the public and help women and children.
Well, first of all, I want to touch on something. You mentioned pedagogy. Can you explain that concept? I mean, I did some writing on that years ago, the difference between pedagogy and andragogy. But for people who may not have heard the term or they may not be as familiar with it, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, with pedagogy, that is where, teachers learn techniques, teachers learn strategies, the best research practices in the classroom. So that's one thing as a college professor. Yes, I taught the strategies, but I also taught the theory behind it, because I feel it's so important for teachers to understand why are they teaching the way they're teaching, right? Why are they doing what they're doing in the classroom? Not because, oh, it's cute, oh, because it's fun, oh, because I found it on the website, but we want a theoretical, a tried, proven way to a better way, effective way to teach children. So that's what I pretty much do, and also I think it's very important for parents to understand, why teachers do what they do in the classroom, and they can even better promote literacy in the home, because, the parent is the first, line to create literate children.
Absolutely. Parent or children often mirror what they see their parents do. So
Mm-hmm.
if they see their parents reading and taking an actual interest in learning, then the kids do it too.
Mm-hmm.
They may not even realize that they're doing it, but they are doing it.
Exactly. And a lot of adults, don't realize that they are the role models, even though many adults say, oh, well, I didn't ask to be a role model, but you are a role model, being a significant person in the child's life. So like you said, modeling at home, reading, modeling and expressing the importance of education, having particular routines of reading with your children at home. And because when you're reading aloud, and this is something that I teach my my students as well, is that when you're reading aloud to the children, you're modeling fluency, you're modeling intonation, you're modeling your thought processes. If you do a think aloud, oh, I see this in the picture. Oh, it said this. This is why, right? So you're modeling what we call metacognition. And that's what we want children to do. We want children to think about what they are thinking about. We don't want them just to be passive readers, but we want them to be active cognitive readers, right?
When they're reading and understanding, reading to understand and not just to get through it.
Exactly.
Yes. So now you mentioned that you had published your poetry. Have you also published some of these concepts that we're discussing right now?
Well, actually, I have, I guess we'll get into more detail about the books, but I have one for women, and then I have 2 books for children, grades 5 through 12. And it's geared for children of color, because, as you probably know, there lacks diverse literature in classrooms, in schools, and unfortunately, they're pulling so many off the shelf. So I'm in the process of writing a instructional guide to go along with the 2 books, because the books for the children are not just say books of poetry, but they are kind of like workbooks as well, because I've incorporated my literacy background into it. So after each poem, I allow the children to make connections, because when you go to theory, with Rosenblatt, right, you want children to respond to what they're reading, to express their understanding. So I have those opportunities at the end of each chapter. After each poem, but then after each chapter, I also what we call graphic organizers, that help students to organize and to write their understanding of the concept for that particular chapter. So I've incorporated my literacy and my experience as being an African-American mom, also my experience as being, an educator, a teacher. So with the instructional guide, it's where it would be a resource for parents at home, especially if the children aren't getting that education in their school, where parents can do it at home, where it has, for each poem, it has various instructional strategies, various graphic organizers they can use, but also a bibliography of other texts that are out there to supplement whatever the concept is being discussed.
So would you say your books are more for parents and giving them the tools to help their kids, or are your books more for teachers to give them tools?
Actually, for both. I have used my books for my class, my college classrooms, to help teachers get an understanding into cultural diversity and what are some strategies that they can use. So I have actually used it in my classrooms with teachers and pre-service teachers. And then I've also gone into schools. I've been fortunate and blessed to go into schools for the 5th year now in my own elementary school, which is so exciting because the students are like, "Oh, Dr. Lay, you went to school here?" I'm like, "Yeah, about 50 years ago," So they're like amazed that, I sat, in those classrooms. And then I was also a teacher there. So they're like, "You taught here too?" So it's just so fulfilling to go back into my old stomping grounds and to make a difference. So I've used the books with the 5th grade students because I go into the 5th grade. That's the target class level. And so I've really seen how effective it has been when I see the children respond and how they present their understanding of the poems and how they can incorporate it into their lives. Because, the book ends with children becoming leaders and youth activists. Like, how can they make an impact on their world? So I've used it as a college professor for training teachers. I've used it in the elementary classrooms with the students and with the teachers observing so that they can implement it as well. And then also it's the idea of parents working with parents as well, for they can use the book at home, especially for homeschooling and for schools where books are being removed from shelves.